Hello, guys. Welcome to day 3 of the Healthy Relationship Bootcamp. I am your host, Blessed Audu, and I am so happy to have you back. Today, we will be talking about a very interesting topic, continuing from where we stopped, right? And this topic is about cultivating your self-awareness, and I titled it Between Transitions. And I titled this way because as a lot of one of the reasons why a lot of people halt on their growth journey or get discouraged out of doing big things is that the results may not exactly start showing up when you start out, rewiring your thought patterns, doing new stuff. So you said that, oh, I want to think good about people, I want to trust that people are good. I want to have good thought patterns. And it seems that nothing seems to change in those first few moments, okay? Or the first time you decided to just jump in and trust, you get heartbroken and you're like, see what I was talking about? Okay, so in this session, we want to really talk about how to navigate transitions, how to navigate where you are coming from in your old thought patterns to where you want to go, the place you want to be, and the future you see for yourself. This is what I call between transitions, and we are going to teach you to cultivate your self-awareness such that you are able to gracefully navigate the you in between where you are now and where you want to go. All right, that's the beauty of this session, and I want you to sit back and get your journals, get your notepads, and you know write out the things that speak to you, and just really pay attention. This thing I just shared has turned out in a lot of experiences in my life, and I see a future for myself, see something amazing that I want to do, take a sneak peek into the person that I want to become in a certain area of my life, and then try to rewire my thoughts, try to say, oh, I'm going to think positive from now on, and so that I can really see these big things happen for me. And for like the first few, I don't want to say, I'm not going to put a timeline on it, right? But it seems that it's not working. And a lot of times there's this identity crisis. And here is why. One of the most powerful things that you would do for yourself is to understand that you act from a place of identity. You act from a place of identity. So, for example, instead of saying, oh, I want better relationships or I want healthy relationships, you should be thinking, or you should be saying, I am a person that attracts healthy relationships. Healthy relationships is my norm. I don't do toxicity. Toxicity is not around me. People cannot be toxic in my space. I am not that kind of person. I don't give that kind of energy. I cannot tolerate that kind of energy because that's not what I give out. Okay, so that's one of the most important things that can happen for you. If you want to change anything about your life, you start thinking about your identity in that area. How do you see yourself in that area? And even though we have talked about the journey into uncovering what you can do and who you can become, it's very pertinent that you set before you an identity that speaks to where you want to go. And so what happens when you are trying to settle into this new identity, because you're coming from a place where you've always thought negative in the past, or you're coming from a place where you've always thought, oh, this is the kind of people I attract, or maybe you've not even actively been affirming an identity, but you have just absorbed reflections of people's identity, what you see around, how your primary family turned out, or whatnot. And now you're in a place where you want to be intentional about your life, about your relationships. You want to do things better, and you now start, sitting and understanding, uncovering who you are, deciding where you want to go, right, and really taking time to affirm that I am a person that is deserving of this. I am an amazing person and I do not do this. But it's very important that you pay attention to the fact that this journey to self-awareness and having a healthy sense of identity is really rooted in healing. And what do I mean? I mean that when you want to go on a journey to get a kind of result, you have to become what you want to attract. We've talked a bit about this, right? You have to have taken time to do the inner work that helps you not give out a negative or an opposite energy from what you want to attract. This is the only reason why you can affirm an identity and it stays with you. And another man is not telling you, to you, how would you attract that kind of person? Do you the way you are? Do you see? So it means that you must have taken time to excavate your own negative messages you've fed your souls with. You've put them, you've put them on the table, taking it down on your journals, and you have started to rewire this your mindset and replace them with a healthy sense of identity, that this future I desire for myself in my relationships and even in any other area of my life, it is not only possible, it is something that I deserve, not something that I will be privileged to have. No, it is something that I deserve. As a person, as an individual, as a person who is loved by God, I deserve the good things of life. I deserve amazing relationships. And as I do the work on myself to become a person that can steward that kind of relationship, I repeatedly, send a message to my mind, to my subconscious, that I am deserving of these things that I want. But however, sometimes in between doing the work, the healing journey, talking to yourself, uncovering who you are, uncovering where you're coming from, and doing all this work, sometimes it can feel like it's not working in the moment, right? You may make some mistakes, you may fall into some, wrong places, or let's say in this context, wrong relationships, or you may attract a few things that may not exactly be good for you. And how do you navigate still staying in your identity? I mean, now the identity that you have envisioned for yourself, right? Or the identity that you have because of the life you envisioned for yourself, right? The identity you have come into because of the life you have envisioned for yourself. How do you stay in that identity instead of allowing current seemingly negative experiences to deter you? Okay, so in simple terms, I mean that sometimes, right, you can start to think a certain way and you may not see the results immediately. You may start to, so you've heard all the good things, how you think matters, that we said in, lesson 1 and lesson 2, and you're like, okay, let me start thinking right. And you try to think right, nothing happened the first time. You try to think right second time, it seems that it's the exact things that, do you see? And there's this temptation, if I may say, to now feel like, I said it, nothing good ever comes to me. I don't get good relationships. They said we should think right. And this is the point where everybody has to pay attention to what you really want and what the kind of people that you are listening to. I've heard a lot of people say things like, oh, motivational talk, motivational talk. And the reason why people despise motivational talk is because they think it does not work. But they don't understand that it's not so much as what you say out of your mouth, but what you really believe about yourself. And the sole reason why motivational talk will not seem to work for you is that you've not consistently absorbed those things till it now comes from a place of identity. So for example, and this is even in the context of, let's say you want to achieve a particular goal, you want to get a particular big thing, a, let's say, project you're executing, or you want to do something in your business, something grand, and you hear maybe these videos of things on the internet and all, you can do it, you are deserving of this, you are la, 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 la. You know how these things work, and people would roll their eyes and say, I see a lot of memes. I'm sure you do see those memes on the internet, like motivational speaker said this, motivational speaker said that. And it's funny because the reason why it is not working is that reason for which you are taunting that motivational talk, because you believe that for you it's not possible, it will not work out. Okay, so even if, so it's not so much as what is happening in the present. You must pay attention to the fact that you create your experiences. Have a consciousness that I create my life. I decide what will happen for me. If something is happening in your present, it's because the thought patterns that you've had in your past ushered in those experiences into your life currently. And so you have to make a decision that for where I want to go, I'm going to consciously rewire my thought patterns to allow me to create the experience that I desire for the future. Does it make sense? So it's very, very important that you pay attention to the fact that it's not so much as what is happening now. Do not let your experiences validate or invalidate how you see yourself, or what you think is possible. Do you see? Because like I said in the previous lesson, it's not so much as what happens, it's your thought patterns. And what has happened in the past happened because there was a certain way in which you were thinking in the past. And now that you want to rewire your thoughts, you must give yourself time. You must learn to consistently I learned this in the context of spirituality, okay? And I think I really am a very spiritual person, so I think I'll just share this. I learned this in the context of spirituality, that when you want to do certain things, like move in the spiritual, in the power of God and stuff like that, and it's not working initially, right? I met someone who had a lot of failed experiences at exercising the power of God, and so he just believed that these things are fluke, they don't work, and all. There's some people that are, but as because of that person, I started trying to find out why is it that these things do not work for some people, it works for some people. So first of all, even though when I had that conversation with the person, I did not have answers. I allowed myself to believe that for some reason there's a reason why this thing seems to work for some people and it's not working for others. And I learned that a lot of people think that it's outside of their reach. A lot of people, we have been so conditioned. This is turning to a spiritual conversation, but I'm totally loving it because that's what I love to do. It's a lot of people have believed that some things are not possible, and let's not even say a lot of people, humans generally, we've relinquished some things to people who have spiritual powers, be that witches, people that get spiritual powers from wherever, right? And some things are not just seen to be possible to the normal human being, and we forget that as humans, because as humans, like the man that me and you are or is whatever, right? You are powerful in yourself. It starts here. It starts by what you believe is possible, is actually possible. And it's funny because simple laws of the universe, people can manipulate it to do spiritual things. And if you are a person who is intentional about God, and I mean like God through Christ Jesus, like learning about God and the ways of God, you would see that a lot of the things God that the Bible will teach you, there are things that you can apply into every area of your life and you would see results. But that's by the way. So I'm just trying to point out to you something here, that it's what you believe is possible that can happen for you. And even if it may not be happening in the moment, you don't look at what is happening like presently in your today to validate what is possible for your tomorrow. Okay, so in between transitions, I want to walk you on a journey to interrupting your thought patterns, right? Interrupting your current thought patterns, so that you can intentionally curate a life that you want in your relationships, and I dare say in every other part of your life, because you can put this into practice in every other area of your life. Do you see? So the fact that something may not have worked now, it's just telling you that there's a thought pattern to interrupt. There's a mindset to rewire. There is a conditioning that you have that needs to be addressed so that you can create better outcomes for you in the future. Okay, so now let's get into the exercise. So I'm going to teach you how to be self-aware. So when I mean self-aware, I mean paying attention. So if I've used the word self-awareness, self-awareness, self-awareness. I'm sure some people are like, how do I cultivate my self-awareness? Here is it. Okay, so I want you to learn to pay attention. Okay, and yes, this is in the context of relationships. And maybe I'll use an example of when I used to have this feeling that people did not like me. There was a time in my life. I can't believe that that was a thing at some point in my life. And I'm very serious. It was a big thing for me. I would enter into a room and I would just feel like nobody liked me here. I was very jittery. Like if I entered into a hall, I would feel that everybody's eyes are on me and people are thinking bad things. Bro, it was crazy. Okay, until I started saying that nobody's actually thinking about you. Everybody is doing what's going on in their lives, right? So it took a certain level of self-awareness to start picking those thoughts out and calling them out. Do you see? Sometimes we literally run on autopilot. Do you understand? Like when you are behaving in certain ways, so for example, when you enter into a place and you start feeling very self-conscious. And when I mean self-conscious, like feeling like you're not confident, you are very self-conscious, and you're like, am I this, am I that, am I this, am I that, what are people thinking about me in this moment? Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Why am I in this moment? Why is this thought running through my mind? What is the reason? As you begin to ask yourself questions, that is how you are able to dig out deeper reasons why you believe certain things. So, for example, I just realized that I was not confident. Like, I'm not the kind of person that will speak out in public, say things, or even walk into a place where everybody's already seated without feeling very aware and all that stuff. But as time went on, I started seeing that, oh, as I asked myself, why do I feel this way? I started seeing that, oh, because I felt like people would see me and be like, this girl, people will not like me, people will not. And I started asking myself that, why would you think like that? What valid reason do you have to believe that for some reason, people who know nothing about you or next to nothing about you would see you walking into a place and suddenly judge you, right? Or not like you, or pay specific attention to you, really? And I tend to see that it all did not make sense, right? It did not make sense. And sometimes our emotions, our behavior, and all, if we don't interrupt them by self awareness, we don't see how much of nonsense we actually believe. Okay, so self awareness requires you to pay attention to how you feel in a moment. So, for example, you are feeling angry, something happened and you are pissed. Instead of, and let's talk about this in the context of a relationship, instead of taking it out on the next person and like, you always do this, you are annoying, you make me this, you make me that, why don't you take a just pause in that moment and ask yourself, why am I angry? Why am I pissed? Why does this thing get to me? Why does this person's behavior or attitude or whatever get to me? You would see. And when you start to ask yourself these questions, you are able to interrupt the old patterns of your belief. You're able to say, I feel like I am being ridiculed in this moment. And then you weigh it against what is happening, what actually happened, and what you are feeling, and ask yourself, is it me? Or is there something here to address? This is not to say that you don't address things when they come out and all that. But if you're someone that deals with anger, dealing with anger, negative emotions consistently, or let's not even call them negative, because I believe that emotions can be interpreted, or they can, it's your action that matters, right? So it means that you have a right to be angry, but ask yourself questions. Why am I angry in this moment? Maybe because you just feel taken for granted, or maybe because what was said triggered a wound that you've not dealt with. That's why you feel a certain way. Okay, so self awareness requires you paying attention to how you feel at every point in time. And when you feel a certain way, especially when you feel off, even when you feel overly excited, but let's just say when you feel off, when you feel insulted, when you feel ridiculed, when you feel a certain way, right? And sometimes this could even be when the person may not exactly have meant it that way, or let's just say you don't care how the person meant it, right? Or something happened, it was not exactly as bad as you interpreted it to be, right? Not saying you downplay your emotions, but saying that you should find out why things affect you the way they affect you. Okay, that's the basic thing. As you are finding out why you feel a certain way, ask yourself, like, how am I thinking? What do I think about this? What are my thought patterns concerning this situation? Oh, you feel like this person does not care about you, that's why they do not reach out to you. This is even a big thing in relationships, in romantic relationships, for example. You feel like, oh, this person said they would reach out and they did not, and you feel offended or you feel sad. And instead of doing the whole passive aggressive silent treatment, just pause and ask yourself, is there a reason why this got to me, like really getting to me? You say, oh, I don't like it when people make um people make promises and they don't keep their promises. Okay, so why is it an issue for you? Not saying that it is okay for the other person to not do things, but asking yourself, is it something that you are seemingly um reacting to, instead of waiting and responding from your place of wholeness, responding from a place of understanding, responding from a place of, oh, I see you, I get you. Do you see? One of the most common reasons why people have conflicts in their relationships is because of trauma. So I come with my own my backlog of traumatic experiences, my my trauma list perspective of life, and I'm coming into a relationship with someone coming with his or her own, backlog. And the more we do not stop to analyze, we cannot reach each other. We cannot connect with each other. So self-awareness is very powerful. We've talked about this, but I'm going in depth about in this. It's very powerful if you're going to build a healthy relationship, because you need to be able to interpret your internal environment before you can communicate it to the next person. So it means that you need to learn to interpret you, so that when you're communicating, you know exactly what you're communicating, and they're telling you, "Oh, I did not mean it that way. It's fine." Or someone wants to even, tell you, you are overreacting. You say, "No, I'm not overreacting. I don't like it when you do that. I want you to, it's a boundary for me. I don't like it when you do that." Because you have been able to come to the place of self-awareness, and you know what you're feeling. You know that it is not, just something to be tossed aside. It's something that you need to communicate about. But when you're not self-aware, you are at a higher chance of just arguing blindly, shouting, having messy arguments, and nothing to show for it. Okay, so the first thing that I need you to pay attention to as regards this is interrupt your thought patterns when you feel a certain way. Do you see? Interrupt your thought patterns. Why do I feel that way? Or something comes to you and you are tempted to act in the way that you would typically act. Maybe normally if somebody says something to you, you would just, go on and stop yourself and say, the version of me that I want to become, or the kind of person that I'm becoming, does not accept me behaving in this kind of way. Then you rewire. After you've interrupted, right? You've interrupted that thought pattern. You rewire. So how would I react in this situation as the version of me that I want to become? So this is, for example, instead of yelling, you pause and say, you process. Instead of yelling, or when you're offended, or when something happens wrongly in your relationship, instead of quarreling, fighting, or saying hurtful words at the other person, you stop and you say, let me process. You process and you come to a realization that this thing is something that is important to you. You calm down and you communicate, not shout, not quarrel. You communicate. Okay, you are acting, even if in that moment you won't feel like it. And that's one thing we need to know, that it's not so much of how you feel. Your feelings are valid, but they are not to be, taken very seriously. What I mean is that the fact that you feel a certain way does not mean that that's how things should go. So you feel offended, you can take a break. You don't have to give them a piece of your mind in the moment. Okay, you can take a break, then you can pause and you can analyze, regulate your emotional system, and then communicate. Okay, and so everyday action as a person who is self-aware will look like interrupting your old thought patterns when they are about to make you act in a certain way that reinforces your old identity. So you interrupt in that moment, and when you interrupt, you ask yourself, how would the version of me that I see myself as, the version of me that I want to become, how would that person react? Do you understand? Or how would that person think? It's not react. How would that person think? So this happens to me, in this period recently, when I have been in, taking in resources that is rewiring my mindset in certain areas, and I may not be seeing the results. So the old version of me would be discouraged. I'm like, after the work I put in, I'm not seeing the results in this area. What will the new version of me say? The version of me that I'm trying to become says something like, this is not under my control. Can I do anything about this in this moment? No. Is there something that I can do that can remedy the situation? I'm not exactly sure. But I have an alternative, the things that are in my control, this I can control about the situation, and I will play my part in that area. But the version of me that I'm trying to become understands that she does the things that she has to do, and she stops worrying about the things that she cannot control. Do we see? So it gives you a mindset. You are not a victim of life. Things don't happen to you. You happen to things. And so you play as a person who knows what is in her control, and you don't bother about the things that are not in your control. You cannot control other people's behavior. You cannot control their reaction, but you can control you. You can control the way you behave. You can control your ability to show up, right? And so, as I learned those things, I had to know what struggles to face and not allow myself to absorb a negative perspective of myself because of the way somebody acts. Do you see? So it is very important that you understand that you have a role to play to your future self, the identity you are trying to build about yourself, and you have to be intentional. Daily actions is what gets you closer to becoming that person that you are looking at becoming, the person that will attract the kind of relationships you want. It is very powerful. Self awareness. And so we'll go over it again just in case for some reason we have these steps have been buried in the gist. The first thing you need to do is to pay attention to your feelings in the moment, okay? And also your thoughts. So it could be your feelings or it could be your thought. So your feelings as regards, let's say, something is happening in the moment and you're feeling a certain way that is less negative in this sense. And you are like, why am I feeling this way? You journal. I'm feeling this way because this. Oh, I feel like this thing good. I don't deserve this thing good. And when you pick out those underlying reasons why you feel a certain way, when you pick out the underlying reasons why you feel a certain way, you now see that it's not a it's your the messages that has been etched in your soul. We talked about this based on your past experiences or from whatever reasons. It's now your responsibility to ask yourself, how will the version of me that I am trying to become, the future version of me, how would she or how would he respond to this? And you know that he will say, no, it's not about that. Nobody is really looking at you, or the person may not have meant it like that. Give them the benefit of doubt. Do this. So you rewire that message from you rewire that message that you have picked out into what the new version of you would do or would say to get to where you want to go, and then you act as the person that you want to be. Does this make sense? I hope this makes sense to you. You act as that person that you want to be. Okay, this is powerful and it will help you, do big things in this area. Another thing that you want to pay attention to is entering into circles where your new identity is the norm. Get into circles where your new identity is the norm. And by that, I mean that you need to consistently put in front of you what you want for yourself. Okay, so it's not enough to just say it. If everything around you does not reinforce that identity, you will have an issue at some point. You get discouraged, you would be lost in transition. Okay, and you may find yourself going back to feeling like, whoa, all these things does not work, nothing is working. So enter into a new community that reinforces your identity. And if this is you for your relationship, Honest will find is that community. Okay, but you can implement this in any other area of your life. Really, get into spaces where you can continuously see pictures that remind you of the person that you are now becoming. I'm intentional about saying that this is the person that you are now becoming because that person is really on the inside of you. You just need sufficient you just need to take in sufficient action to become that person, to so remove the negative messages so that the positive messages that reinforces the identity can rest. Okay. So it's really important that you do that. This can also look like being intentionally getting into spaces where people have relationships, and I mean close up relationships that mirror where you want to go, kind of relationships you want to have, joining a community where you can feel the love. You understand? It could be a church community, it could be a network of people doing certain things, doing a course together, doing something amazing. And especially if you're someone that you know that you want to step out into your purpose, you cannot do it alone. This is another very pivotal thing. If you want to step into your purpose and start seeing yourself differently because of the kind of value that you have to contribute to the world, you need to get into a space that would bring out that thing out of you. So it's not even only about places where relationships are, where you have beautiful relationships. In fact, I dare say that for this point, the most pivotal thing that you would do is to get into a space that helps you and covers your purpose. Get into a community, get into a circle of people that helps you open up who you are in your inside so that you can do the big things you've been called to do, especially if you're someone who have been procrastinating on purpose for a long time. or you don't even know what you are called to do, that this is where you need to start. Okay, don't just sit down and think, okay, I think I like to write, and just open the blog and start writing. That's wonderful. If you can keep up with it and you have the clarity and all that, that's perfect. But I would encourage that you get some sort of accountability, support, from free or paid communities, like-minded people, or people doing something that is similar to what you want to do or what you're already doing, so that you can get that sense of camaraderie and you don't get discouraged out of who you are. Okay, this can also look like paying attention to the people you listen to. This is very powerful if you're going to do big things. You have to be intentional about people you follow. You have to be intentional about the kind of places the spaces you find yourself, the places you go, the kind of events you attend, the kind of podcasts you listen to, the people you listen to. You have to not just be say, oh, I don't listen to this person because this person does not say good things, which I want you to do, but also you need to be intentional about fishing out the people that are your teachers and following them. Does this make sense? People who have what you want to do, people who have what you want to become, and following them, and I mean paying attention to what they teach, putting in the work, just to become a better version of yourself. Just to become a better version of yourself. It's very powerful. Very, very powerful. So you need to pay attention to that. Another thing you pay attention to as you seek to, uncover yourself, grow into the version of you that you want to be, and step into your identity and your habits. Okay? This can look like a small thing, but the power of one habit cannot be overemphasized. Do you know that when you pick up a good habit or you drop a bad habit, it makes you see yourself differently? It makes you believe that you are capable of things. It makes you start what's the word? Rating yourself. Do you understand? Like, you start to rate yourself like, I can actually do this. And sometimes it takes just one habit to bring you into a spiral of healthy habits that can change your life. Trust me. It takes just one habit sometimes. Just one. Okay? So as you pay attention to what you want in life, ask yourself, what one thing can I change about my life? Pick the thing that you know that you don't have to move mountain and molehill, and start there. You are not just teaching yourself that, let's not do this anymore, let's do this now. You are teaching yourself that you are capable of changing, that you deserve to grow and to evolve. And that's powerful for your soul. That's very powerful. Very, very powerful. Okay, so another thing that I'm going to pick out here, and this is now, we've talked about identity generally with a little bit of relationships here and there, but let's step it down now, or let's come down now to relationships. One of the most important things you need to pay attention to as you do this, and as you attract people, because as you step into your purpose, step into your identity, people, like I've said this for the millionth time, people will come. But you need to pay attention to if these people are, good people, or people that you need to keep at arm's length, people that are not healthy for you. You need to know. You cannot just open your hands to every time they can hurry, because even unhealthy people are attracted to greatness. Okay? So you need to learn what boundaries entail. Boundaries will save your life. Boundaries will save your life. And boundaries really have to do with knowing what you are deserving of. Not everybody deserves a space in your life. No. And if I talk about this in the context of who to trust and who not to trust, it's very important that even while we say you can trust people, you pay attention to the kind of people that you can trust. You can't trust everybody. Everybody is not your person, right? So boundaries, when we talk about boundaries, think about it. What are the things that you like? What are the nonsense that you don't like? Don't be, if you're for somebody like me, I grew up and became a people pleaser. It may be hard to find out what you really like and what you don't like, but you need to pay attention. When somebody does something to you, even though you feel like you say, oh, it does not matter, how do you really feel? Do you feel insulted, taken for granted? That's a boundary that has been eroded. Okay. And so people will say, oh, there are various types of boundaries, you know, boundaries on physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, you know, different, really. There are lots of boundaries, right? Boundaries on how people talk to you, how people how people, relate with you, what you take from people, what you won't take from people. There are a lot. But the fastest way to find out what your personal boundaries are paying attention to what you like and what you do not like, right? So it means that when you find out that you don't like this thing, you don't have to take it from someone. You don't. You are not. Don't say you're trying to be a nice person and people are, you know, treating you in ways that you feel insulted, or you feel like somebody is eroding your sense of dignity. Do you understand? You need to pay attention to that. If you when you are paying at when you allow your when you are self-aware and you find out these things about yourself, you can communicate them as you meet new people, and you see the kind of people who do not respect boundaries. They act in certain ways, they talk in certain ways. They are the people that they don't keep things to themselves. They tend to tell people, you or people who you just feel like you cannot trust, or people who you don't even want to trust. It's your choice, right? Nobody has a permanent place in your life. You are constantly changing and evolving, and of course your relationships will evolve. You have to be consistently talking about your boundaries, structuring your boundaries, and keeping the people who you don't feel safe around outside of your life, right? So when we talk about boundaries, there are the things that you don't like, you don't feel comfortable with, you don't feel safe with. And this is it's important to pay attention to boundaries, because for many people who are coming from a place of trauma, you need to pay extra caution. And I will advise you read the book Boundaries, right? There's this book called Boundaries by two doctors, two psychologists. I can't remember their name. If I get the name, I'll put it in the description so you can check it out. Okay. You need to pay attention to your boundaries, especially if you're coming from a place of trauma and you have been a people pleaser all your life. That will not cut it. You need to sit down and ask yourself, what do I really want? What don't I want? What do I not like? What will somebody do to me and I will feel very bad? You won't take it. You won't, no matter who the person is. And not being like, rude and all, but steadily communicating that this is something that I do not like and I deserve to be respected in this area. You will not talk to me in certain ways, whoever you are. You would not insult my person, or erode my or my dignity because of what? Do you see? So you have to learn how to teach people to treat you. That's really what it is. How to teach. Some people are very manipulative. Like, you meet certain people and you see the way they behave, and you just feel the energy that this is not my person. No, I can't be in this person's space. This person likes to manipulate other people or talk down on people, right? Talk down on people, make people feel worse about themselves or their mistakes. Those are the kind of people that you need to be, you need to have a high sense of, should I say, your antenna for those kind of people have to be high. So you don't allow them into your space, you push them away as you are becoming. And the reason why self-awareness is important is that you now begin to see yourself as, better than this. Do you understand? You start to see yourself like, I deserve better. I actually deserve better. I can't settle for this. I can't settle for toxicity because I need love. I am loved already. Do you see? I am loved already. So if this person should take their toxic love and go away, I cannot handle toxic love. Like, I heard the toxic love thingy from a team member a while ago, and I was like, "What is that? Are people mad? How you? What is toxic? What? Toxicity and love should never be in the same place." And some people are taking that one as their own love life. It's crazy. So, what was I going to say? So that's really it. Okay, it's very important that you pay attention to it. When you're self-aware, you know you're a person of worth and you won't take rubbish. But you have to develop your sense of boundaries. How do you want to be treated? Decide early on how you will not be treated in any relationship. Decide. If you don't decide early on, you would find yourself in relationships that you feel like, oh, the person is not that bad, except he does this or except she does this. Decide early on that I will not be in any relationship that I am being treated like this. I will not be in any relationship where I have to experience this. Do you understand? So that when you have that behind your mind, as you attract people, like I said, you begin to sieve out those that are deserving to come into your space and those that will stay outside. It's that simple. Okay. Finally, before we end this video, I want you to also learn to develop your conversational spirit. Develop your conversational spirit. And this is one big plus if you are going to attract high class relationships. High class, I mean high class relationships, right? You have to develop a conversational spirit, a spirit that wants to know about people, a spirit that is really intrigued by the idea or by a person, right? You don't just have this mentality of seeing people like just everybody. No, be genuinely curious about people. Have a heart that wants to learn about people. You know, be able to engage in conversations that people feel like, that person, she's deep or he's deep. I think I like that. Do you know that conversations are what births intimacy? Conversations, communication, they are the things that birth intimacy. So you have to learn to have a heart or a personality that genuinely wants to know about people, right? You have to develop your listening skills, right? I know someone, probably since I know someone, and this person knows how to listen. I don't think I've ever met someone who listens as much. Active listening. I'm sure you guys have heard about active and passive listening. That when you listen to respond or just listen so people will know that you're listening, that's passive listening. Active listening, you maintain eye contact. You are genuinely invested in the conversation. You know how to make people feel heard and seen. That's powerful. That's really powerful. Okay? It will change your relationships for good. Not just attracting people, it will change your existing relationships. Your relationship begins to have depth. Your relationship begins to have depth. It begins to have life on the inside of them because you are having healthy conversations. You are learning, you are connecting. Okay, it's powerful, very powerful. So you have to develop your conversational spirit. Don't just be someone. And I had to learn this, right? As much as I love talking to people and all, and this is that I'm a person that likes to talk, right? I like to talk a lot, and I had to learn that you have to learn to listen actively. Actively, you'd pay attention and ask questions. That's the next point here. If you are going to be a person that attracts high class relationships, learn to ask the right questions. When you ask questions not just because this is yes or no, and don't be superficial. Think about the kind of question you would have liked to be asked in a situation like this that gets you really talking about yourself, and ask that kind of question. Yes, right? So develop your conversational spirit by learning to have deep conversations, being genuinely interested in people, having to, listen actively. You understand? And have a relationship that flourishes through, enriching conversations, deep conversations. This is how you connect with people. Okay, in lesson 4, I don't, go too deep into this part, but it's a whole module on its own, and we'll be exploring it, the art of emotional connection or emotional connection in your relationship, talking about that deeply. Do you see? But as you attract people, one of the things that people would, apart from your confidence and all, people want to hear what you have to say. Okay, and if you've worked on your self identity, you are working in your purpose, you are now becoming a person who is really, what's the word, you are becoming a person who has stories, who has growth happening, and so you have an enriching life from experiences that you can share. You have to now develop your conversational spirit so you can have this conversation, enriching conversation, intellectual conversation, and even conversations on the level of emotional health, emotions. And this is most likely in the context of a romantic relationship, that people just are just like, wow. I find that a lot. People are just like, wow, what kind of person is this? Right? What kind of woman is this? What kind of guy is this? And it's beautiful. That's connection. That's what connection looks like. Okay, guys. So this is where we're going to the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed this one. And like we always say, we go to the community and we share what we are learning in the into meeting sessions. I look forward to seeing you in lesson 4. Have a blessed day. Bye.